guys, this is Paige Nester and Blake Nester with Creek House Honey Farm and Texas Beekeepers Association.
Yes.
And we are here today to show you how to render beautiful wax so that you can make things like candles and skincare products. We use raw wax with everything that we do at Creek House Honey Farm, from the chapsticks up to the healing salves and lotions. And even candles. But we're going to show you how to go from grandma's oatmeal look stage to actually coming up with a yellow, very nice beeswax that will help with your products.
Okay guys, so I'm just gonna start talking through everything you're gonna need to render your wax. So first we're gonna start off with cappings. You can see we've used a knife to cut off all of these cappings right here. It looks like oatmeal. It's not the prettiest. It still has bee parts and all kinds of gunk in there, but we're gonna get all of that out during this process. There are several other ways you can get your wax. If you're just gonna cut up your comb and use that, that's what you're gonna need, but we're just gonna use cappings for today. Some tin foil, brand doesn't really matter, but just some tin foil. I have a silicone mold here to pour our wax in as soon as it's nice and yellow and clean. We have a Pyrex, a knife, cheesecloth, a pan that you're not going to want to use again. This is our pan that we use every time for doing our beeswax. You can see it's really gross. So you're going to need something that you don't want to use again for this. You're going to need a large pot like this. We're going to be double boiling in this. The only thing that is going into the pot is water, so you can use this again, that's fine. I also have here a candle bucket. This is meant for beeswax and different kinds of waxes to make candles. We got this one at Hobby Lobby, but you can find them on Amazon as well. So we're just gonna stick this in here and double boil it like that until all the wax is melted. We also have a pan lined with the tin foil and a scraper. So we're gonna scrape all of that gross stuff off the bottom, and you're gonna see how that happens in just a little bit. Okay, so our first step, we're gonna take our nasty pan and we are going to fill it up with water. We just do about an inch, just to fill up about right there. Our next step is to take our cappings or your cut comb, whichever one you're using, and we are going to fill it up all the way to the top. We just filled up with cappings to about the top, not overflowing, but just enough to be above the water. You need about an inch left of the pan covering. Okay, so now our next step is just to try and stir it in. It's still a little chunky at this point, but you want to constantly stir it because once you walk away from it, it's going to melt as soon as it hits temperature, and then you're going to have a big mess if it decides to boil over. So we are just going to try our best to just kind of fold everything in and let it get to where we want it to and not let it melt super quickly.
Guys, you can see now that we're still stirring this, but it's starting to melt down pretty good. And we will continue to watch it so that it doesn't boil over. That is so important, not to let hot wax boil over onto your stove. It could cause a fire. So just be really careful. All right, we're about to the wax melting point. And so once it is all liquefied and I can no longer see any chunks in it, then I'm going to just turn it off and I'm going to let it sit. And it's gonna take it several hours to cool. Okay, I've officially pulled it off the burner. You can see that the wax that got on that was smoking. And I will just let it sit. And you can, if you have, once it cools down to more like room temperature, you could put it in the refrigerator to help that wax harden and get to that hardened stage if you are in a hurry.
It looks after being in the refrigerator for a while. You can see that the honey has mixed in with that water. It looks kind of goopy, kind of gunky, but that's normal. All the wax is still sitting at the top, and that's what you want. But this is what it looks like after a couple of hours of being in the refrigerator. So now we are just gonna dump out all of this excess water so we can get to the wax. And from here, we're just gonna push down on it and then pull it out from there. And you can see on the bottom, it has all of this gross stuff on here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take it out and scrape that off. So you can either take a scraper like this, or if you don't have a scraper, you can also use a knife, whichever one you want to. And we're just gonna take this and slowly just kind of scratch off all of the gross stuff that we don't need. So this process is going to take a while, but it helps if you rinse off your piece of wax first. There's going to be some of that gross honey water kind of all over it. So if you rinse it, it helps a little bit with the scraping process. Okay, so this is our wax block after we have got as much as that bottom stuff off as we could. Our first knife was too dull, so we had to switch to a sharper one, and we were finally able to get all of this off. It takes a lot of work to get it off, but we finally got it. So now this is gonna go back into the warmer, and we're gonna repeat the same process.
So the second batch that we did, because I was wanting to do a second batch to add to my first batch, looks more like this. And I think it's because it boiled over. It's really crumbly and there's no separation of wax and junk. So I'm gonna have to do it again. And I'm just gonna throw it back in with all my other stuff and do it all again in one big pot this time to get a bigger block. So I've done about 3 batches at this point, and I've added them all together because I really want a bigger wax block. If you only have as many wax cappings as you have, then you aren't able to do this. But if you have a lot of wax cappings, I would separate those first initial ones and do as many first runs and then add them together. So this is after I've combined all 3 different phase 1s. You can still see there's a lot of stuff in the wax, but there's a lot of junk on the bottom. So I'm going to scrape all this off and do it again. Okay, so this is the wax after I've done 3 first-time renderings and then added everything, and then rendered everything a second time and then a third time. So this is what I'm left with, and I'm pretty sure after I scrape this, I'm going to be happy with it. You could keep going if you wanted to until this is just less and less, but that's just more time, and I'm going to filter it anyway. So we'll see what it looks like after I scrape it. So this is how it turned out after I scraped it. It looks pretty good. There's still brown in there, so I just want to be done with the filtering part on the stove because I'm happy with the top part of the wax. Looks really yellow and really good. So I feel like at this point I can put it into my candle wax pitcher, melt it down, and I'll show you how I filter it one last time before I use it in a product or making candles. So something I didn't talk about was if your piece is too thick for you to break, you might need to use a chisel like this and a hammer to break it apart to put it in the bucket. Okay, so at this point I've put cheesecloth on a Pyrex dish, and I'm going to filter the wax through the cheesecloth. You can see all of the stuff it's still filtering out. And then you just pop this off, and then all of your bright yellow wax is in your Pyrex with no trash. And then you fill up your ice cube tray. And these are 1 ounce portions. They'll go into my chapsticks. You could also pour this directly into a candle mold. It's easy to do that. I also do some halves for some half ounce portion. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to clean the utensils that you used for the rendering. I mean, you'll never get the pot clean again that you filtered in, but all of these things can be cleaned pretty easily. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to make a double boiler with the Pyrex dish in the water. I added a little more water to my pot just so it would get the edges up to the rim. And so we're gonna let that wax melt and then pour it as much off as we can. Okay, so my wax is melted down pretty much. I'm going to remove it from the heat. You may want to do this with a towel. I'm just going to pour it back over into the candle wax bucket because I have some impurities at the bottom. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and immediately wipe this whole jar out. If I don't get everything out, then I'll stick it back in the double boiler and I'll repeat that till it's clean. The way that you get your utensils clean is that I simply stick those in there like that and put them in the double boiler method. And then I wait until, I don't know, they're heated good enough, and then I wipe them off with a paper towel too, and it cleans them every time. Thanks guys so much for watching our wax rendering video today. Blake and I really enjoy teaching and helping other people get to know beeswax products. We hope that you got some beautiful wax that you can make candles with or use in your skincare products, and we hope to see you next time on Creek House Honey Farm YouTube. You can also visit our website, creekhousehoneyfarm.com.